Hello everyone and welcome to our game of World of Warships. Today's replay is from Bison Napalm and I'm terribly sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Now he is in the Belfast, a tier 7 premium British cruiser. He is on the map Two Brothers in a 4-point domination game mode. It's a tier 7 battle and since there are almost no tier 7s, that's pretty perfect matchmaking. There are no carriers. Unfortunately, the enemy team has one more destroyer, but the friendly destroyers are splitting up nicely and they will have one destroyer at each capture point, which is nice. The rest of the team seems... I think there are more ships going towards the left side, but should be alright. Now, Bison Napalm is probably setting up here behind this island, so he can maybe move slightly ahead of it, deploy smoke, and has somewhere where he can retreat to after the smoke is gone. Provides some torpedo cover. Well, and he's in a nice position to support his division mate in a destroyer. The destroyer is obviously going inside the cap circle and, well, there is also an enemy destroyer around. Now the enemy destroyer is slowing down, he's probably preparing to deploy smoke, but the Belfast has radar. Although, the enemy destroyer is pretty close to the maximum range of radar, but he's still inside it, so that enemy destroyer might get wrecked here. Enemy destroyer is slowly reversing and I'm afraid he has just left radar range, as means he's probably going to survive. Now Bison Napalm is activating his hydro here. He was expecting torpedoes to come towards his smoke and he was right, although they left a conveniently sized gap here. Now while the enemy destroyer is going to stay floating, nobody is able to capture point Alpha right now, but on the other side of the map the friendly team is doing quite well, although there aren't that many friendly ships there and it might be that the enemies have a numerical advantage, but still, friendlies are taking the cap point. And right here is a Fiji conveniently showing broadside. Unfortunately he's sitting in smoke, but I guess Bison Napalm has a pretty good guess where the Fiji just was. And he's scoring a few hits inside the smoke. Now he's guessing that the Fiji is reversing. But unfortunately that was a miss, but there might be some other targets coming here. There are a few cruisers around. And it's like quite a few enemies over there. So now we have spotted the second destroyer. Unfortunately, wrong ammunition was currently loaded. Now he's switching back to high explosive. Our friendly forces are still arriving here. Unfortunately there are a few ships here going more towards the zone wall. There isn't much reason for that, like in Ever. You want to have your ships well closer to the cap itself, maybe here slightly behind the cap, and when the opportunity is right you want to push inside. It's just a waste of time to get too close to the zone wall. Now the friendly team did take control of the right cap, but they lost the destroyer over there and the enemies are currently capturing. There are only a few ships there and they are vastly outnumbered, so I don't know why the friendly ships are going towards the zone wall. They should be retreating towards the center here. But it's not looking very good on the other side. Friendly team seems to have a lot of ships here, so they should try to push in, but they need somebody, like a battleship. Be a little bit braver. Although I guess the New York and the Kirk are actually coming this way, so they are actually doing a great job if they continue to push in. Might just be that it's taken them a while to arrive, because they aren't the fastest ships around. And meanwhile, Fiji here is going down. And yes, the battleships are pushing in, so actually exactly what I wanted to see. Now unfortunately the Hydro is currently on cooldown, so he cannot help spot torpedoes for them. But there is still the friendly destroyer around. Friendly destroyer might have Hydro ready. And looks like the enemy Oh, he only was spotted for a time. But we can also see the Akatsuki, so hopefully the friendly team can take care of those destroyers. And it looks like a lot of enemy torpedoes are going to miss. The New York should be able to dodge most of them, and he is still at full health. He is leading the charge, and with the push of the New York, the friendly team should be able to take this cap. Also, in a surprising turn of events, the enemies didn't actually capture other point. The destroyer just went straight through Point Delta and is now trying to capture Point Charlie. A friendly Cleveland is here in order to defend. And the Emil Bertha is also coming to help out. So nice to see the friendly team capturing, and I have no idea what the enemy was thinking. I have also no idea how the enemies still don't control Point Delta. Meanwhile, the friendly offensive here is going quite nicely, while the New York took quite a bit of damage. He should still have heals ready, and he is still at about half health. So nice offensive here, the enemies are in retreats, the friendlies can now capture, and the Cyclone is starting. Now it would be nice if the friendly team could take out the destroyer before he escapes. The Königsberg and the New York, if they're actually going towards the zone wall, the friendly team should ignore them. They can hug the zone wall as much as they want during a Cyclone. Chasing a ship up there in the north is not very... it's just not a very good idea. So the friendly team has a decision to make. They can either continue towards Point Bravo or they can retreat and defend Point Charlie. Now there are 2 friendly ships down there, but they could also just go through the channel and join the friendlies up here. I mean, theory the friendly team could try to split up. Not sure if that's the best idea. It also depends on what the enemy is doing. They basically have the same choice. They can either continue to attack or defend. Also, the enemies could just start capturing Point Delta, which they should have done 5 minutes ago. And look at that, friendly destroyer is coming in too close, and he gets taken care of. That's a huge win for the friendlies here. And now our little division is making their way towards Point Bravo. They decided to be aggressive and to capture. They also still have the opportunity to go through this channel if they decide going to Point Charlie is a good idea. Question is, what are the majority of the friendly forces doing here behind? Now, while that New York led an exemplary push towards Point Alpha, he is now just continuing towards the zone wall, which is awkward and a bad idea, because he is pretty much useless in this position, especially during his... I mean, they control this side of the map. There is soon a Cyclone coming, so he won't spot even those guys in the north, and he's just removing himself further and further from the battle for no reason at all. Now at least the other ships are now sailing in that direction, while they made quite a bit behind, which is bad during a cyclone. But it doesn't look like there are enemies up here. So we speed it up a little bit until something more action-packed happens. And trust me, especially at the ending, there will be a lot of action coming. Now meanwhile they are just capturing, and thanks to the Cyclone, they aren't seeing an awful lot. We still don't know how most of the enemies decided to go. And it looks like there is a lone Atlanta coming this way. Although, I mean, in a Cyclone you can never know if he is alone or if he has a lot of friends just right behind him. So this poor Atlanta here is going down pretty soon, I suppose. And there goes the Atlanta. And oh look, there is almost at Königsberg. Now I presume the smoke here was a bit of a misclick. So we also used radar. He's going all out for this poor little ship here. I'm not seeing any other enemies close. So we speed it up once more. Meanwhile, some reinforcements have arrived. And it looks like a few ships are splitting up and going through the center channel. Not sure if that's a decent idea. On the left side, it looks like the friendly New York is engaging the enemy New York. So let's hope he can win that duel. And looks like the friendly destroyer found something and engaged. He's also used smoke. And, well, it seems to be a cruiser all on its own. So it looks like the enemy team has split up quite a bit instead of staying together. And that can be a fatal mistake during a cyclone. The friendly team has quite a nice points lead, but ship-wise the teams are still rather evenly matched. So this could go either way. Now this is one enemy dealt with. The friendly team is now capturing the point, so there is nobody else here blocking. And it looks like the final showdown is approaching while we are speeding it up once more again to get there a little bit faster. Friendly team is now capturing this point and then they are moving to Charlie. So spawn of the friendly team where everything began is where everything will end. Probably, I guess. And there goes an enemy Bayern. That's a great start. Now we know that New York was last spotted there in the north, so he is probably not here yet. Which leaves 4 friendlies to deal with 2 enemy cruisers. Well, the York is unfortunately a little bit too far ahead, and it might be that the York gets sunk before the reinforcements arrive. Now we can see the enemies are taking Point Bravo, so the New York is in the north, which means she won't be here anytime soon. So let's hope the friendlies can just wrap up this side, and well, there are also only 4 minutes left. So if the friendlies can maintain a point lead, then could also just win over time. Or maybe if the New York comes through the channel, they can prepare a torpedo ambush. So, friendly cruiser is still pretty healthy. Well, at least one of those 2 cruisers. Now Aetam has spotted the Budyoni, which is the softer target right now, and if they can deal with her first, it will considerably lessen the enemy's damage output. And unfortunately one friendly cruiser is soon going down. Now he is switching back to the Assionaire. And he is using his radar. Now both friendly ships are inside smoke, so they are safe until the enemy gets close enough to detect them. Which unfortunately will be pretty soon. Now there are torpedoes launched towards the smoke, but since the torpedoes are spotted, they shouldn't be so hard to dodge. But the friendly cruiser, the friendly destroyer got taken out by Sheris. So, Aetam is the only one left floating in the team. This has turned pretty desperate pretty quickly, but he still has a nice health advantage. Now the enemy is coming straight for him. The enemy could just win this with a ram or with, yeah, guns, torpedoes, right? And there was some heavy damage, but the secondaries actually took care of that cruiser. The other cruiser is conveniently enough showing broadside. Aetam is loading armor piercing. The torpedoes are spotted thanks to Hydro, so they are easily avoided. And that's one cruiser dealt with. So only the enemy battleship is remaining. And the friendly team has a points lead, but unfortunately the battleship is arriving just at this moment. Now, he could try running away, but Well, there is still 1.5 minutes left. The enemies do have more points. I'm not sure if the lead the friendly team has would be enough for running away. But how is he going to sink in New York? If he stays in the capture zone, at least he's preventing that one capture zone from accumulating points, and therefore negating part of the enemy's advantage. So can he survive one more minute? That's the question. I mean, maybe he can use the island to his left as some sort of cover, or he just could go for a ram. Now if he manages to ram them, this means both teams would lose all of their ships. So what happens then? Probably a draw. But maybe we are going to find out. The enemy battleship is reversing, I think. Not that it will do him any good unless he can sink him right now. This is... yeah, this is going to be a ram, and there it is. So, both ships are down, nobody is left floating, and I think that's the first time I actually saw this. So now comes the question, is it a draw or is it something else? And it's a victory. Well, I'm surprised, but that was certainly an exciting end. Aetam managed to score 115,000 points of damage, and he got himself close quarters expert, Kraken, high caliber and Confederate. And with a ram that took out the last remaining enemy and himself, he managed to actually win this battle. Now, Aetam managed to get himself 2,381 base experience, and it was certainly well deserved. He, in the end, seized the opportunity, he went for ram. I don't know if he expected this to be a win or not. I certainly didn't. And it's funny to stare at an end screen where every ship has been sunk. So yeah, this was an exciting end to an interesting battle. I really hope you enjoyed watching that. And I'll see you guys next time.